Live from downtown Macon, this is WGXA News live on YouTube.
Good evening, Middle Georgia. I'm Amanda Peralta.
I'm Greg Lloyd, and we welcome you to WGXA News at 5:30 on YouTube.
Thanks to forensic science and the hard work of investigators, the Jane Doe cold case in Bibb County has finally been solved.
The victim has now been identified and connected to serial killer Samuel Little.
Our Brianna Cook sat down with one of the people that helped find the identity of the victim.
46 years. That's the amount of time it took for the identification of a woman classified as Macon Jane Doe. The remains were identified as Yvonne Pless, a 20-year-old woman who had been missing in Macon since 1977. The Bibb County Sheriff's Office has confirmed her as a victim of late serial killer Samuel Little, who confessed to murdering 93 people. With BCSO teaming up with the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, they worked together to uncover her identity. Amy Hutzel, program director at the CJCC, oversees the Georgia Sexual Assault Kit Initiative Task Force and says their team was called upon by the FBI to help solve the Samuel Little cases.
We have investigators, prosecutors, and victim advocates that work on cases that resulted from the sexual assault kit backlog testing that we did a few years ago here in Georgia. So through that work, we were contacted by the FBI Behavioral Analysis Unit and asked to assist them on the Samuel Little cases.
In 2019, Hutzel and Bibb County Sheriff Captain Shermaine Jones went to Wise County, Texas, to confirm that Little's confession would match the unsolved murders in Georgia. The duo teamed up again last year to identify Pless with forensic genealogy. Hutzel says using forensic genealogy along with public information helped them link the cold cases to Little.
So you take a DNA sample that is collected at a crime scene, and you upload that into a public DNA database to find, like I said, typically distant relatives. You can also use the same process for the identification of unknown remains.
That same process allows them to identify unknown remains, which allowed them to meet with a relative of Pless who connected them with her remaining family. Hutzel says it took so long to identify her because technology was not as advanced.
The ability to extract DNA the way we do now did not exist back in 1977. So one of the biggest challenges that we find with cold case investigations is the proper management and retention of evidence.
Now in the age of public DNA databases, Hutzel says there is a common misconception when it comes to private and public DNA testing sites. Sites like Ancestry.com and 23andMe are private databases that cannot be used for forensic genetic genealogy, whereas sites like Family Tree and GEDmatch are public, allowing users to be able to opt in or out of allowing their DNA to be used in linking forensics. With time, Hutzel says forensic DNA technology will improve, but it will take citizens' help.
The strength of any database is how much information is in it. And so as those public DNA databases increase, the ability for law enforcement to be able to solve cases will also increase.
Take a look at the damage at this Murphy's Express, where Bibb County deputies say two suspects backed a U-Haul into the building before stealing an ATM this morning. Deputies say the business on Gray Highway was broken into around 5 this morning when no one was in the building. Deputies say the two men took the ATM and then left the scene in the U-Haul.
And believe it or not, deputies are on the hunt for suspects who attempted to steal an ATM from Texaco Food Mart, but were ultimately unsuccessful. Deputies say these three men broke into the store on Eisenhower Parkway around 2 this morning in an attempt to steal that ATM. When an alarm went off, the suspects left on foot. If you know anything about either ATM case, please contact the Bibb County Sheriff's Office.
And Bibb County deputies say this man got more than he bargained for when he broke into a home on Brookhaven Road. Deputies say the homeowner held Darren Hearn at gunpoint until authorities could arrive. Deputies found a broken window in the home's garage, and when they searched Hearn, they found items that belonged to the homeowner. He is now behind bars and facing a felony burglary charge.
Bluebird in Fort Valley is again in the spotlight, this time for accusations of discrimination. Two Black female former employees say they were fired after reporting their observations of sexual harassment and discrimination against labor employees.
Our Gloria Ruth Finney spoke with their lawyer to learn more about the newest complaints surrounding Bluebird.
Bluebird has received recent media coverage after workers voted for a union after going on strike, seeking higher pay, more regular schedules, and better vacation and sick time. But the company could be facing more issues after 2 Black female HR employees are blowing their horn, alleging the company fired them after reporting discriminatory environments of labor workers. I spoke with their attorney, Tamara Holder, to ask what they observed and experienced themselves.
What kind of discrimination were they observing in their workplace?
They observed pay disparity between Black workers and non-Black workers. They observed pregnancy discrimination, where the company refused to provide accommodations to at least 2 pregnant women.
She says they also observed drug testing discriminations, testing some more than others.
When they brought them up, they were ignored.
Not only were they ignored, they were fired. And Holder says her clients say it's because they're Black.
How did the idea of race get brought into this instead of 2 women coming together to say, we're observing this, and they outed them anyways from the company?
When they saw and observed what was going on at Bluebird and went to them and said, these are the things that needed to be fixed, Bluebird ignored them and therefore retaliated against them and fired them. They believe that they were treated differently than white female workers who were in a similar position of HR.
How does that work with an at-will state like Georgia?
You cannot get away with discrimination by saying, oh, well, we're an at-will state, which is a common defense that people who don't understand about discrimination and the Civil Rights Act of 1964, they don't understand that you still can't discriminate.
But something like this could take years to see results.
So what we're doing is we're trying to find out how the company handled discrimination, if there are any other complaints. So we will be filing more complaints if more people come forward. And we're in the information gathering stage at this point. Like I said, the EEOC, they have the charges. There will be an investigation. Maybe we will settle, and maybe we will file a lawsuit.
Now, WGXA reached out to Bluebird for comment, but so far we have not received a response. The company is also facing complaints from the United Steelworkers Union over unfair labor practices.
The public could soon learn if former President Donald Trump and his allies face criminal charges in Georgia. Fulton County DA Fannie Willis investigating efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election results in the state. In a letter, she says most of her employees will work remotely some days in early to mid-August. Willis also is asking judges not to schedule in-person court appearances for 2 weeks during that month.
Those details are important because they appear to confirm the previous alert to law enforcement that she'd announced her charging decisions this summer. She's looking into whether Trump and others illegally conspired to change the election's outcome. Attorneys for the former president argue her investigation is illegal and any evidence from it should be thrown out.
The probe began in 2021 after a phone call became public in which Trump asked Georgia's Secretary of State to, quote, find votes. A special grand jury then met for about 7 months, heard from 75 witnesses, and examined a bevy of documents and communications. Afterward, the foreperson said it had recommended multiple indictments.
After dipping his toe into the water for months, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis appears to be ready to take the plunge and announce his run for the White House, perhaps as soon as next week.
He'd be part of a growing GOP primary field looking to take on the frontrunner, former President Donald Trump. Carolyn Shively reports from Washington.
That's a big announcement. Stay tuned, man. Stay tuned. I can't tip the hats.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis speaking and acting like a presidential candidate in the early voting state of New Hampshire Friday, taking pictures, kissing babies, and talking policy.
It's easy to go out and take positions that are really popular at the time. It's harder to dig in and really cut against the grain.
DeSantis is on track to announce his bid for the White House next week so he can start raising money and raising his poll numbers. DeSantis runs a consistent second in most Republican primary polls, but trails former President Trump by 36 points in the Real Clear Politics average.
DeSantis is going to have to come out swinging here. You know, it's a long primary campaign. The problem is DeSantis looked really good. He faded heavily, but Tim Scott is coming in. And I think Tim Scott kind of brings a whole new dimension.
In fact, Senator Scott filed his paperwork to enter the race Friday with an expected announcement on Monday. While Scott has remained relentlessly positive, Democrats predict the GOP primary season could get ugly.
I'm looking forward to a bloody primary that has more and more people in it. I'd love to see more people get in because it's just going to make the race harder for all of them come the general election.
The first Republican debate is set for August. It's sure to be feisty, but still unclear frontrunner Donald Trump will appear. In Washington, Caroline Shively, Fox News.
It's been a cloudy day across middle Georgia, but despite the clouds, it has been a very dry day, which means I am very happy. Will the dry weather stick around into the weekend?
Oh, Amanda, Chief Meteorologist Ryan Stinnett joins us now with those details. So let us have
And
it.
hopefully good news, because you know how he is.
It'll be mainly dry. How about that? It'll be dry the rest of this evening as you hit the town, Amanda. But yeah, a mainly cloudy day, kind of a gray day for many of us looking at our Wilson Bryant Heating and Air Skycast network. Down in Dublin, Lawrence County, 75 degrees. Still got that northeasterly wind thanks to that wedge of cooler air trying to filter in. But overall, a dry evening. And we got the visible satellite. This is just showing you the white are clouds. And you see how thick they've been all day long. That northeasterly flow where you're seeing those darker breaks. That's the sun trying to break through. But as we get towards the end of the day, I really think we're going to run out of timing. Now, rainfall, it's not out there. It's a dry Friday evening for us, and most of us are in the lower 70s. So as you head out and about on the town this evening, no need for the rain gear. Temperatures will be falling from the 70s into the 60s. However, I do have rain in the forecast for tomorrow. I'll show you that coming up. Greg, Amanda.
All right. Thank you, Ryan. And it's a great time to download that WGXA weather app. Ryan is back in less than 20 minutes with your full forecast.
It's Game Changer Friday, where we are sure to be inspired by a Middle Georgia athlete making a difference.
Carlos Stevens introduces us to middle schooler who is inspiring anyone around her, and that includes those who teach her.
She's very dedicated. Heaven is there to motivate our football players.
She's just a good influence.
8th grader Heaven Caesar is everything it takes to be a leader in the classroom, sports, and through her volunteer work. She's in a number of organizations like Future Business Leaders of America, Distributive Education Clubs of America, Skills USA, and Beta Club, where she serves as the vice president. Caesar says just recently she helped her Beta Club advisor with a donation drive for deodorant for kids with the help of Central Georgia Technical College. Caesar says helping others warms her heart.
I think just seeing that smile on somebody's face when you help them with something is like really big for me.
And while Heaven may just be looking to make someone smile, her impact is bigger than she may imagine.
A lot of times you hear teachers motivating students, but for me, Heaven was a motivator for me as a coach, as a teacher, and even as a person. Heaven gave me great advice about how a team should be operated, how they should have sisterhood, how we should support one another even when that time may be difficult.
Heaven says her willingness to look out for others came from her upbringing.
How I was raised to help people, never to judge anybody on how they look or how they talk or anything like that.
It's that no judgment zone that Heaven's soccer coach Tyler Layfield says makes it hard to say goodbye as she heads to high school.
And she impacted the game a lot. She's impacted my life a lot, and I'll be sad to see her go.
And it's only one thing her teachers and coaches think the community should know.
Heaven is heaven.
And that's your game changer of the week. Congrats, Heaven. Central Georgia, keep those nominations coming. Reporting in Macon, I'm Carlos Stevens, WGXA Sports.
The 4th and 5th grade students at Hurd Elementary School gave a tour today of a project that took them all year long. Today, they walked different Hurd Elementary classes through their culminating project at Ancient Egyptian Museum, where they got to share their knowledge from this past year's classes.
So we wanted to come up with a museum that it could educate the rest of our school and let them know what we do in our class. And we wanted to show off what we knew about ancient Egypt. The kids have set up exhibits about each of the components of a civilization, and classes have been invited to walk through and just see what we learned.
The teacher says this is the biggest project her research classes have done for their final project.
Central Georgia Technical College and Atrium Health Navicent are solidifying a new partnership. It's a first for Atrium in Georgia. They will offer students in Macon and Warner Robins
Under burn restrictions now through September 30th, it doesn't mean that landowners should not start assessing their land management practices right now. In this week's On the Farm, we speak with the Georgia Forestry Commission on what landowners can do to prepare for the future. Despite burning restrictions in some parts of the state, Georgia Forestry Commission says summer provides a great opportunity for landowners to strategize their land management goals for the future.
Right now, things have slowed down with our rangers with the prescribed fires. And so right now would be a perfect time to get somebody to come out to your property, look at it, make a plan, and start thinking about burning next year.
The Georgia Forestry Commission says most landowners burn with one or more of the following goals in mind: to maintain a good habitat for wildlife, to promote timber growth, to make it look aesthetically pleasing, or to prevent wildfires.
Identifying that objective first, then drives the weather conditions, the time of year that I want to burn under. So identifying that objective is very important. And you can have multiple objectives, but each one of those dictates the weather which I want to burn under.
Even though the majority of Georgia counties fall under no new summer burn restrictions, a burn this late in the season could potentially do more harm than good.
If you're thinking about burning in the months of late April, May, June, there are a couple of things that you want to consider. First off, the stand needs to have been thinned. And what that does is it's so that the crown is open so that the heat gets up, because we're talking about 142 degrees threshold to kill live plants. And so what you're wanting to do is not kill that terminal bud. And so if it's already 90 degrees, all I've got to do is raise the temperature up about 52, 55 degrees, and I can kill the plant. So by having a thin stand, I allow that heat to escape. I also want a stand that has already been burned a couple of times, a couple of wintertime burns. I never want to burn this late in the year on a first burn. So a stand that's been thinned, it's been burned several times, and I'm probably going to burn something that's about 60 to 70 acres or less, so that I can have my burn completed by 12 or 1 o'clock before the heating of the day. Again, trying to reduce the impacts to those plants, that overstory.
And remember, state law requires landowners call Georgia Forestry Commission to obtain burn permits before setting fires to their properties.
Looking over in Macon right now, we're looking downtown on our Wilson Bryant Heating and Air Skycast Network. Looking great. It's mainly cloudy, but it's a dry Friday evening, and that makes it pretty nice outside. Got a temperature 73 degrees being reported out at the airport. Nice Friday evening in store if you're heading out and about. Late day storms will return to the forecast tomorrow. Many of us this weekend will stay dry, but if you do catch yourself under one of those storms, they could be on the strong side. We're talking gusty winds, maybe maybe a lot of frequent lightning, heavy rainfall, maybe some small hail. And in fact, we do have a low-end threat for some severe weather for our Saturday evening. This is that level 1 out of 5 levels. Again, gusty winds, small hail, certainly a possibility with some of those stronger storms. But the overall setup for this event, it's not going to be a big time event. So that's certainly some great news. It's quiet and dry this evening. Likely see the sky clear a little bit after midnight. Then tomorrow morning starts off dry. Then we're going to be watching these thunderstorms coming out of Alabama tomorrow afternoon into tomorrow evening. Some of these could be on the strong side. Again, they'll be quickly pushing through the state, part of a larger complex that's ongoing out in the plains right now. These will be the storms that are left over, and they will be falling apart as they push through middle Georgia. Notice tomorrow night, they really do dissipate once they get past middle Georgia, and then maybe a few more storms as the actual front will push through as we head into early Sunday morning. So certainly some thunderstorms will be possible, but that front will push through, and most of our Sunday will be dry. Maybe the exception being extreme South Georgia, Crisp County, maybe over towards Telfer County. But for the rest of us, looks to be a pretty decent Sunday for us. So as we look at the weekend forecast, looking great for many locations most of the day. Yes, we will have scattered storms, isolated storms on Sunday. Take the rain gear if you're heading out and about, but again, the vast majority of us will stay dry. Rain chances will increase again on Monday and Tuesday, very similar to what we dealt with this week. Widespread rain and thunderstorms, maybe, as we head through the afternoon and evening hours. Middle of the week, we'll actually get some drier air filtering into middle Georgia, so that's certainly some great news. So we'll decrease those rain chances, and that looks to continue as we head into the Memorial Day weekend. Tonight, very similar to the last night. Temperatures lower 60s, very comfortable, a little breezy at times. There'll even be a few upper 50s showing up. Highs tomorrow into the 80s. Your 10-day forecast. Rain, it's in the forecast, off and on at times, but I really think our best rain chances are actually going to be Monday and Tuesday next week. Then we're generally dry for the end of the week, and temperatures not too bad. No 90s showing up. And your Harrison's Body Shop fishing game forecast peaks at multiple times. Highest peak 3:20 a.m.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Gary Thigpen, and I'm here again today at the Animal Rescue Foundation in Milledgeville. I'm joined again with Aline, and guess who we have today?
So this is Faith. Faith is about a 6-year-old pitty mix of some sort. She's super sweet.
She sure is.
She is a snuggler. We call her our resident pig in a dog's body because she snorts, and it's the most adorable thing.
Yeah, you probably could hear her.
Faith is also housebroken, and she is a snuggler. She does not care about walks very often.
Yeah, she's definitely a snuggler, and she's full of, not that energetic, but just enough to, get you up and moving and everything. And so she's a very sweet dog. So if someone would like to adopt Faith, Aline, how do they go about doing that?
They're going to go to our website at animalrescuefoundation.org and click on the How to Adopt tab, fill out the app, and we'll be in touch.
And you said she's what, about 3 years old?
She's probably a little closer to 6.
Oh, 6, you said. I'm so sorry. All right, guys, let's go ahead and find Faith a really good home today. Look, she is so sweet. She needs to go home. Thank you so much, Aline.
Thank you.
Well, get this. We know one little girl who was quite disappointed with her dad this morning after he forgot to write a note for her lunchbox. But no worries, she took matters into her own hands. Miss Harper Cox wrote herself a note this morning reading, "Dear Harper, I love you and I hope you have a great day." She even went on to sign the note, "Love, Harper." We don't think her dad, Jeff, will forget any more notes for the rest of the school year. I actually admire how creative she is.
That is awesome.
I love that. I really do.
And shame on Jeff.
I know. How could Jeff forget that? I mean, he had one job this morning. He had one job.
And he forgot to do it, but I tell you what, that's very touching.
He's probably dreading having to come herd the cats here that we are. So.
Yeah, probably. He's probably thinking of everything he has to reprimand us for.
It's our fault.
Harper, we will be better so that your dad doesn't forget next time.
We want to thank you so much for being with us. If you enjoy our 5:30 show, we'll help you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Join us at 6 in just a few minutes on ABC 16.
Have a great evening.